for goodness sake. He said that he'll never go back to the BBC. They don't want you. You were fired. That's coming up in Late Edition.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Andrew, we just can't carry on pretending. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. This is Patrick Christys Tonight. I'm Nana Aquia. It's Late Edition. Breaking tonight.
The relationship between the US and the UK is one of our foremost relationships. And I have confidence in the ambassador in the role that he is doing.
Yes, that confidence lasted long. Lord Mandelson becomes the first British politician sacked for 3 different scandals across 4 different decades. But then, was he ever really friends with Starmer?
Starmer needs to shed a few pounds, and that would be an improvement.
Nice. Well, we now know that Mandelson was best pals with convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. But why was he appointed in the first place? Plus...
Yeah. I'll say, can I just say something? I don't agree he was a Cicero for the TikTok age. I believe he was a David Duke for the TikTok age. And I have some degree...
Can you just remind us who David Duke
was?
is?
The former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan.
Some truly shocking reactions to the death of Charlie Kirk. Meanwhile, the FBI have issued a reward of up to $100,000 for information leading to the identification of Charlie Kirk's killer. But here was the really shocking news.
The bullets had the ammunition inside the rifle engraved with messages of transgender and anti-fascist ideology.
Moving on to other news in a GB News exclusive.
I demand from world leaders, including the British government, to stand firm together and say to Hamas, we won't talk to any Palestinian, any one of you, until you release the hostages. They'll see that it may work better.
Israeli President Isaac Herzog has spoken exclusively to GB News and demanded world leaders come together to demand Hamas to release the hostages. And finally,
audiences didn't know something quite fundamental about the child, which is that he was the son of a Hamas official. Isn't that a problem?
I don't think so, no.
For tonight's finale, Gary Lineker has claimed he will never return to the BBC. How will they survive without him? Well, joining me this evening, Conservative peer Sean Bailey, Labour councillor Sebastian Salek and GB News contributor and comedian Paul Cox. But first, let's get your latest news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nana, thank you. The top stories. Police are investigating multiple leads in the hunt for the Charlie Kirk shooting suspect after more than 200 tips from the public. It's as the FBI released images of a person of interest and an offer of a $100,000 reward for information. 30-year-old Conservative activist Charlie Kirk was shot while giving a talk at Utah Valley University. Eyewitnesses say a figure on a rooftop fired a single round, hitting him in the neck. Kirk was rushed to hospital by his security team, but 2 hours later, the US president announced he died of his injuries. Lord Mandelson has been sacked as Britain's ambassador to the United States after emails revealed the true depth of his relationship with paedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein. Mandelson admitted further embarrassing emails were likely to emerge, including one in which he called Epstein his best pal. Sir Keir Starmer told MPs yesterday he still had confidence in Mandelson, but today in the Commons his withdrawal was confirmed. Israel's president met the Prime Minister in Downing Street yesterday, a day after the deadly strike on Qatar's capital, Doha, which has drawn up much criticism. There have been rumours of tensions between Sir Keir Starmer and the Israeli president during their meeting. Isaac Herzog sat down with GB News.
We reject the idea of a unilateral declaration of recognizing a Palestinian state because it's dangerous, it will flare up emotions, it won't bring out any hostage, and we won't help any Palestinian. On the contrary, I demand from world leaders, including the British government, to stand firm together and say to Hamas, we won't talk to any Palestinian, any one of you, until you release the hostages. They'll see that it may work better.
Former Commons leader Lucy Powell has secured enough for MP nominations to go head-to-head with the Education Secretary in Labour's deputy leadership race. Backbencher Belle Ribeiro-Addy was knocked out of the race after she failed to get the 80 nominations from Labour MPs required to advance to the next stage. Bridget Phillipson picked up 175 nominations, Ms Powell 117 and Ms Ribeiro-Addy 24. The three other MPs who'd initially thrown their hat into the ring to succeed Angela Rayner dropped out before nominations had closed. Those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, it's over to Nana.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Welcome back to Late Edition. Let's get straight into Friday's front pages. On the front cover of the Metro, Mandy, it all ends in tears. On the front cover of The Independent, Starmer in crisis as he's forced to sack yet another key ally. I can't even say it now. The front cover of The Telegraph leads with Starmer faces MP's Mandelson scandal. The Sun, face of evil. Daily Express, weak Starmer under fire for Mandelson fiasco. The Daily Mail leads with Starmer ignored string of warnings, and the Eye leads with Mandelson exit leaves weakened Starmer facing wrath of Labour. In the Daily Star, we've got Gary Lineker, I'm never going back to the BBC. The Times, Mandelson, I was clear about links to Epstein. And in the Mirror, home in disgrace. The Guardian, the Prime Minister faces questions over judgment as he is forced to sack Mandelson. Right, so those are your front covers. Let's get the thoughts of my panel. Conservative peer Sean Bailey, Labour councillor Sebastian Selleck and GB News contributor and comedian Paul Cox. Right, let's start with the Daily Mail. Front cover of the Daily Mail. Should we go with... should we start with Keir Starmer or Charlie Kirk? I think, should we do Starmer? He ignored a string of warnings. So, Paul Cox, Keir Starmer faced mounting questions over his political judgment last night as he was forced to sack yet another one.
Yeah, as you said in your intro, 3 scandals, 4 decades, 3 sackings, 3 PMs. As good a diplomat, and I understand he's an incredibly good diplomat, Peter Mandelson, and highly regarded. You'd have to be sort of blind, deaf and dumb not to have expected this to happen at some point. Or, if you don't, you just say, this scandal's coming our way. They knew he had a relationship with Epstein, OK? And when he wrote that letter that was 10 pages long and all a bit gushing, it was pre any indictment for child sexual assault. And, you know, that's fine. The biggest problem was he then did a deal to broker, a £1 billion deal to broker a bank business as business secretary for the UK government for a taxpayer business whilst he had been after he'd been convicted. So all of a sudden it becomes this huge scandal once again. But it's no surprise. I don't think anyone's looking at this going, I can't believe Peter Mandelson was involved in Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a powerful, influential person. People like Peter Mandelson are going to be involved with people like Jeffrey Epstein. The cut-off point is when he's charged and convicted of such a heinous crime. So Keir Starmer set himself up for a fall. He set Peter Mandelson up for a fall. He set himself up for a fall, and it just looks incredibly bad for Keir Starmer's judgment once again.
Do you think any of this, because of course it was Bloomberg who sort of gave the first sort of scoop on this, do you think that there's some sort of, that Trump's administration may have been sort of aware of this or involved in this in any way?
I mean, look, you can speculate. I think the deeper point is this. There's 2 big things for me. Firstly, the things that he had said about Trump, suggesting, saying he was a racist, etc., a little bit less than a sort of a white power extremist or whatever he said. Those things, for me, would have taken him out of the job, because it means that you're going to negotiate with people who they know you hate them already. And we all know Trump, love him or hate him, he takes things personal.
It's a bit like David Lammy. I never understood that one either.
But the point is, it just leaves you exposed. So when people now suggest that Trump's administration has something to do with this, I don't know. But it wouldn't... you could see how one might imagine that. But the other...
To be fair, though, there wasn't really anybody on Labour's front bench who hadn't said something horrible about somebody.
Well, but if you're the Prime Minister, he has access to everyone. I mean, you would have done a job, I'd have done it. You could have been ambassador. You're not wanting for people, are you? You're not wanting for people.
Nigel Farage could have done the job.
But the point I'm making is, especially with ambassadors, you need to send someone who's quite neutral, who can arrive and do the job and make only friends, no enemies. That's the first thing. The second thing as well, I wonder what Labour MPs' reaction will be to this. At some point, Labour MPs are going to have to start to say, you know what, we've had enough of you, Keir, because this shows pretty poor judgment. He's in a weakened situation anyway. And if you're a Labour MP, you need to ask yourself, do we get rid of him now, or do we wait and get near the election where it's risky to me as an individual MP? And I think that question will start to be asked more.
I think Bridget Phillipson's probably already plotting and planning.
Could well be.
Sebastian Selleck.
Yeah, your question about Trump is interesting. Did somebody in the Trump administration leak these? They'd really be doing the dirty on Trump if they had, wouldn't they? Because the last thing Trump wants to talk about is Epstein. We're not going to hear a peep out of him when he comes to London on that topic, because it's not looking good for him at all. So that would really be a drama to unfold. Look, I'm glad that Mandelson has gone. I think it was the right thing for Starmer to sack him before Mandelson could resign himself. It was good for him to get the upper hand there. What really matters, which is getting the country back on its tracks. People are hurting, but this country has been in a difficult place since 2008, I would say. We've never really recovered from the financial crisis. And it's this government's job to change that, and that's what I want to see now.
So there's more about it in the Daily Telegraph as well. Starmer faces MP's fury over Mandelson scandal. Because all of this, to me, is Keir Starmer's Chris Pincher moment, I think, where there's a scandal that doesn't involve him directly, but it's his judgment that is in question. Because, let's be honest, Mandelson isn't the only one. I mean, where did we start? Who was the first one to go? Who was the first one on the list?
I can't tell you the order, but I know we lost Russia Ali.
Tulip Sadiq.
Tulip Sadiq. Angela Rayner, of course.
Louise Haig was the first one.
Haig as well.
Mike Amesby.
There's been a few, hasn't there? There's been a few. But what's interesting is Starmer says, full confidence in them. 2 days later, you're done. And I was at Mayor's Question Time this morning with Sadiq Khan, and one of my colleagues said to him, does the Prime Minister have full confidence in you? and the whole room sort of chuckled, because Sadiq sat there, and Sadiq is a pro at this. He sat there and he knew where my colleague was trying to lead.
Absolutely, he did.
But Starmer's now looking like a problem.
I think the biggest mistake that Keir Starmer made this week, let's just focus on this week, was going into bat for Peter Mandelson.
Yeah.
He had absolutely no need to go into bat for Peter Mandelson.
Correct.
At that point, he was fully aware of the story. Now, you could argue, diplomatically, he's the US ambassador, and you're not going to stand up in Prime Minister's Questions times and throw him under the bus. But at the same time, he never. Once it looked very bleak for Angela Rayner, he wasn't standing by Angela Rayner. It looked much weaker for Peter Mandelson come Wednesday afternoon, and yet he went into bat for him. And I think it just showed incredibly poor judgment. Keir Starmer hasn't got going yet. I mean, Sebastian, I hope, because I'm a member of the British Society, that Keir Starmer and his government could have made this country better in the 14 months that they've been there. In fact, if anything, incredibly, after 14 years of Tory rule, they've made it worse. We are so divided as a nation now. Normally, you can find someone who supports Labour. Normally, you can. The only time I ever find anyone who supports Labour is when I come into this studio, and they usually sat on that side of the. They usually sat on that side of the. I was a Labour voter. You know, I was a Labour voter throughout from 18 till about 30. I stopped voting for Labour when it became the Corbyn years, and I've never turned back. Labour doesn't exist in the way it used to exist. Labour doesn't represent the people it used to represent. And Keir Starmer's now the epitome of this. He stands for nothing. He's got no philosophy. We don't know where he's taken the country, and neither does he.
I don't think people necessarily want a philosophy. They want change in their lives. And if you are a worker, you're going to get more rights than you've ever had. If you are a renter, you're going to have more rights than you've ever had. If you are a parent, you're going to have more opportunities for your children than you've ever had, whether it's a breakfast club or a free school meal. These are things that move the dial for working people. We're only just getting started. It's 14 months of a 5-year term. And nothing is going to change quickly, and we have to be psychologically ready for that.
Nothing is going to change. Kemi told Keir Starmer this. She said, you think you're going to make changes, you can't, because you won't be able to control the blob. They told Wes Streeting exactly what they think about any plans he has. They're not going to happen. And the reason Keir Starmer having a vision is important, because it's the vision that he can drive through. He's being pulled from pillar to post because he has no real conviction. He needs to take a book out of, you know, if you take a leaf out of Tony's book. You know, I'm not a fan of Tony Blair, but he did have a vision. Yeah, he did have a vision. Starmer needs to go back to his MP, probably phase 3 now. His MP is to say,
right, phase 4.
Phase 4, and say, this is my vision, let's get on with it. Because if he doesn't, they will turn the guns on him. Because Labour, I've said it before and I'll say it again, they are a coalition of disgruntled groups. And unless he provides them with leadership, they'll turn the guns on him because they're worried about their seats.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, who do you think's next then? Because in The Independent, of course, they lead again with the same story. Starmer in crisis as he's forced to sack yet another key ally. PM's judgment in question, which is exactly what we've been saying. As number 10 insists US envoy Mandelson was fired, hot on the heels of Angela Rayner, who was one of the ones we missed out on the list. I mean, she's gone after new information about the closeness to Epstein and has to deny claims it ignored security service red flags about him. The question, I think, for Keir Starmer will be, how much did he know? And when did he know it? Because this was the same thing with Louise Haigh. She claims to have told him that about what happened with the phone. However, he said new information has come to light. I didn't know about all of that.
Well, he would have known about Peter Mandelson and Jeffrey Epstein, because we all did. You know, I knew about the links. We didn't know exactly where and when, but anyone who's associated to... I mean, every single powerful person that's in power right now, most people that have had any sort of US involvement in the last 15 years, has got to meet Epstein, because he was a very powerful and influential person.
But there's meeting him and there's him being your best friend.
And then he's your best pal and you're sitting around in your dressing gown, like, you know...
But according to Mandelson, he had told Number 10 these things. He was very clear. In the paper, it says that he was clear with his links to Epstein.
So you think he told him, I sat around in my dressing gown, sent a little letter that said yum, yum, and all that? I mean, I doubt he told him all of that.
Why this could be a problem to Keir Starmer, because if he did know, then there's a problem. And the other thing that's bubbling away, what happened to his security checks? Now, according to the newspapers, there was alarm bells sounded more than a year ago. So was a security check weak, or did Starmer not take into account? That's the question he'll have to answer.
Or did he just not listen or not think it was important enough, the information that he was given? Did he just...
Well, if you don't have a philosophy, Nana, this is the problem with not having a philosophy. There's no baseline to work from. You know, whether love him or hate him. Corbyn, for instance, we know exactly what he stands for, right? I say I fell out of love with the Labour Party because of Jeremy Corbyn. That was one reason. But I knew exactly what Jeremy Corbyn stood for, and I didn't like it. But you could look at an interview from 1983 from Jeremy Corbyn and one from March, and he will be saying the same thing against the same philosophy. With Keir Starmer, he's like a sock in the wind. You have no idea what he's going to do. And therefore, when he thought the only person who thought that Peter Mandelson would get the job was Keir Starmer. I'm not even sure Peter Mandelson thought he was going to get the job. Everybody on the inside raised an eyebrow when they said it was going to be Peter Mandelson.
I don't know if that's fair. Think about Boris Johnson. I'm sorry to diss an old colleague, but when he was in City Hall, he was the Liberal mayor, and then suddenly he was king of Brexit. He was waving about as well. It's what politicians do, and do you know what? It's the democratic thing to do sometimes, because we have to respond to what people want. So you can't accuse people of changing their minds over the time. Changing a mind is a good thing, and more people should do it.
But it's too in line with the convention. OK, this convention of our two-party politics, you know, let's assume the Lib Dems are part of it as well, why not? But we've had a convention for 100 years now, a century convention that is failing and crumbling, OK? Everything we talk about now says we should do this because it's good to do that, we should do this because it's good to do the other. All of that's failed now. This is why that huge vacuum has opened, and Nigel Farage and the Reform Party are filling that space, because they're not following convention. They're doing everything but follow convention.
For them it's easy because they've
got no experience.
They've got no experience.
And no power.
And it's very easy to be a party of protest. The problem we have in this country, in my estimation, is we have no power in Parliament. I sit and watch MPs struggle. All the important decisions that MPs should be making on our behalf are being made by arm's-length bodies. And this is what's bitten Starmer. He should have made the decision to sack Mandelson or not. Instead, it's been farmed out to some ethics committee and all the rest of that.
But he could have sacked.
He made the decision.
Yeah, but he could have sacked.
He could, but the point is, he in this case, he did. You're correct. But the point is, he didn't with Angela Rayner. He didn't with other people. But the point I'm trying to make is, it's just an example of how politicians are blamed for everything and don't have control of most things because they're farmed out. That's the problem, and it will be a problem for Nigel. Nigel thinks he's going to change the world. Does he have the lever support?
Well, if he can clear out the top civil servants, then he'll be fine.
Can he, though? Can he?
If he can, but if he can't, then he might find himself in the same situation. But who knows? If you're in power and you have a massive majority, you should be able to change laws quite easily. But Keir Starmer's proving that just isn't always the case. But coming up in just a moment, some truly shocking news. Charlie Kirk.
The bullets had the ammunition inside the rifle engraved with messages of transgender and anti-fascist ideology.
Charlie Kirk's killer remains at large, but there's a terrifying twist. This is Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
A wonderful, heartwarming story next, because a 17-year-old Hannah Breeden was born prematurely, and her parents were told that she wouldn't even survive the night, and then she wouldn't survive the week, and next, Hannah wouldn't even survive the month. But now, nearly 18 years later, Hannah is still a bright and cheery, young, beautiful girl, but Hannah has severe learning difficulties and muscular dystrophy, and doctors say she won't be able to get a certificate to fly from 2027 onwards, as she'll simply be too unwell to take to an aircraft. Now, in a bid to arrange one last dream holiday abroad, Hannah's family have created a crowdfunder to help raise money to take their wonderful daughter to Disney World for Hannah's last holiday. I'm delighted to say. And now joined by Hannah and her wonderful father, Simon, from our studio in Paddington. Welcome to you both, and thank you, Simon. I know you've both driven down today to be with us on GB News. Your story moved me to the core. Let's start, if we can, with that day almost 18 years ago when Hannah was born and you were told she wouldn't even make it through the night, but she's still here.
Yeah, thanks for having us on the show. Yeah, as you said, Hannah was born prematurely, and you know, she had to be ventilated and in ICU. And it was just, you know, a real bumpy ride all the way along. The doctors kept saying that, you know, don't get your hopes up. You know, she isn't going to be around for very long. And she's gone and proved everyone wrong. She's fought and fought and fought. They said she would never get off a ventilator. She got off the ventilator. They said she'd never eat orally. She now eats orally. They said she'd never drink, and she now drinks. And she's proven everyone wrong.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition. I'm Nana Akwe. Right, let's get the views of my panel. Conservative peer Sean Bailey, also Labour councillor Sebastian Selleck, and GB News contributor and comedian Paul Cox. Right, so should we look at some of the front covers, some of the pages? Let's have a look at the Times first, because this one we're going to be talking about. Let's talk about the Times and this particular piece about the Trump ally killer left transgender ammunition. So this is the killer who they suspect killed Charlie Kirk. A gun and ammunition on the scene, which US investigators say may have borne messages expressing transgender and anti-fascist ideology. So Donald Trump suggested that it was somebody who was on the left, which obviously that's where that trans ideology exists. Sebastian Selleck.
Yeah, do you know what? I think about every time there's an Islamist terror attack, and every time my heart goes out to the Muslim community. I think you're going to take so much flack for this unjustifiably, and I'm really sorry for that. And tonight I'm thinking about the trans community, because they didn't do this, but I really worry that they're going to come in for some flack as a result of it. It's really unhelpful that the killer has done this. The killer is the killer. They are, in isolation, an evil person. They must face justice. But let's not bring trans people into this.
Although the Americans are, I think, looking to put forward legislation about transgender people buying guns, because many of the shootings, and I'm not saying all trans people, you know that, but many of the shootings of late have been perpetrated by trans individuals.
A vast minority, but if that's what it takes to get some anti-gun legislation in America, then let's have it, and let's make sure it applies to everybody. That country, I said it earlier, there is more than a school shooting a week this year in America, which we would all agree is abominable. It's completely unfathomable in this country as well. There's this huge cultural shift. I wish they took a leaf out of our book. I wish they were slightly less gun-happy, and maybe it would be a safer country as a result.
Sean Bailey.
Look, I worry for the trans community, because now they're going to be focused into your trans and you're minding your own business. This might change the business you need to mind. But the real issue, I think is a problem for the Western world. We spend so much time now polarising arguments. You know, if you're not with me, you're against me. There's echo chambers in social media. There's prominent people organising pile-ins and all sorts, and this is the result of that. And I think at some point we're going to have to take a deep breath and start again. We really are, because we have to relearn the ability to have an argument, disagree, shake hands and let bygones be bygones. But this is the culmination of how we have been behaving. And if anyone doubts me, right, look at the abuse that Sadiq Khan receives online. And I pick up Sadiq Khan because he's my political opponent. I've literally stood against him, but I don't condone the absolute vitriol he's had to suffer on social media. And at some point, somebody has to say enough's enough. But I also blame the government and activists, because the way we've been instigated hate crime laws in this country, I believe, generates much more hate crime.
Because the non-crime hate incidences, for one, I think a lot of the legislation that they're putting through, that isn't really legislation because it's not really a crime, but it is and isn't, I think there's a problem there because the line as to when you've crossed the line is just determined by individuals rather than an actual...
And what it is, it politicises our legal system, and it really sends the idea that if you are against the zeitgeist, you're in the wrong, and if you're with the zeitgeist, you can say almost anything you like. Now, that could be a conspiracy theory, but believe you me, many, many people believe it.
It sort of politicises our feelings as well. Feelings. If you feel this, then that equals that. What do you think, Paul Cox? Are we heading towards a dangerous world? Because Charlie Kirk was actually all about discussion and talk. He wanted people to talk.
Charlie Kirk was assassinated on the campus of a university.
Yes.
Defending free speech. OK, which is something we all stand for on this panel. We're all having a discussion here. We all come from a different background. We all have different political views. And none of us deserve to be attacked physically at all. It's bad enough the abuse you get online anyway. We all get it in some way or another. We need to differentiate slightly here. You talked about the Muslim community, and we differentiate them by talking about the Islamist militant community. In this, we now have a burgeoning trans rights activist militant type community as well that, for whatever reason, have become ostracised to the extent that they won't accept people like Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk would say, I should say, that trans women are men. I believe that trans women are men. I don't wish any harm to trans people whatsoever, but I believe it's a biological and scientific fact, and I believe it's important in a number of cases. But what we do have, and by me actually saying that, I put myself at risk now, because there are people within the trans rights activist community that will not accept that whatsoever. There is no room for debate. And what we've done is we found in the trans community a very, very small minority, because they are a terribly small minority in our society, and that, against the backdrop of today's politics, is it's the golden goose. It's what we've been searching for. It's what identity politics and multiculturalism has driven us towards, the smallest possible minority group. And within that, it's no surprise to find this militant faction. And we have to tackle that. And the way we tackle that is we believe in what Charlie Kirk stood for, and that is free speech. And we keep standing by free speech.
I blame a lot of this on a person. So you're gay, you're this, you're trans, you're whatever. Instead of just saying you're a human being.
Yeah, we define people by their political beliefs, which was always going to be a problem.
All right, well, let's take a look at the front cover of The Sun, The Face of Evil. So this is what they feel is the first picture of Charlie Kirk's killer. And then again, it leads on the ammo and the trans message. But the fact that they've the murder of Donald Trump's ally with a single bullet from a sniper rifle rocked America. The president blamed the radical left for the death of the 31-year-old dad of two. Amid reports the bullet fired at the Utah University was engraved with transgender and anti-fascist ideology. So again, they are focusing on the anti-fascist ideology, but I'm looking at the fact that they've actually managed to find the face of who they believe is the killer.
I mean, look, the police need to apprehend this person and make sure. And when I read this, the thing that jumped out at me is anti-fascist slogans and beliefs, but this is the most fascist of actions you could take to silence your what he would see as an opponent, which is stunning to me. But again, I worry now what this does for America's political discourse, what it does for communities over there. You know, will this be a reflection point, or will it just be a point where everybody descends even further?
This is coming our way, by the way. You know, where America lead, we follow, and we've pitted so many different groups against one another that it's culminated in the assassination of someone who went, and I repeat again, on a university campus saying, "These are my views, challenge me." Have the debate.
Let's talk. Yeah.
And they didn't like his views so much that they killed him. OK? We've got to be incredibly careful now. We do have a watershed moment. I don't want any hyperbole right now. You know, I've been trying to make sure I don't talk too much about this on X because it's dangerous. We're filled full of emotion because I'm a free speech advocate. But we have to look at this as a watershed moment now. If we're not careful, this will be the start of something very dangerous for all of us.
Well, it's already started. 2 MPs have been murdered in the last decade in Britain. So in a way, we're already well on the way there, which is very frightening. I'd also call out Trump's handling of this. He was blaming the radical left for this, but he did it right at the beginning. It was the first statement he made, at which point we didn't know. We had no idea.
I'll tell you what we did. Sorry, Sebastian, I don't like to talk over you because you're making a really intelligent point.
No, go on.
But I think we did know. I think we absolutely did know because of what Charlie Kirk was talking about, what Charlie Kirk stood for. We knew this was going to come from
You might have suspected, but you didn't know.
Do you know
I think
what?
it's wrong.
I think
At a time like that, to draw conclusions is wrong. To politicise it before it's politicised is wrong. It was a political act of terror.
But he was
Let's call it what it is.
Absolutely, but he was right.
Ultimately, he was right.
Yeah.
But at that time, we couldn't have known. It was wrong for him to have said that then.
The only thing I'll say, I see where you're coming from, but remember, in Trump, you're talking about someone who survived an attempted assassination not so long ago. So for him, it's a personally emotional place, and he's a leader of the free world. He cannot utter a statement that isn't political. He cannot.
No, there's
anything he
I
says,
guess that's true, yeah.
Well, look at what Obama said instead. He said this is an act of political violence and that is always wrong. And to me, that is the statesman-like response here. That's how you handle it. And
it's obfuscation.
Fine as I might for 2008 in that sense.
I would say that was obfuscation. Yeah. I say that I go as far as saying that's chickening out.
No, it's the right thing to say.
I don't think so.
I think what we should all be saying here.
Where we've got to be brutally honest.
Wrong.
The left are becoming more and more militant, more and more dangerous.
That may well be, but we didn't know that at this point. It was wrong to say that. You've got to call out political violence. That's what this is. We all agree on that, I'm sure.
All right. Well, listen, stay with us. Coming up in just a moment.
Audiences didn't know something quite fundamental about the child, which is that he was the son of a Hamas official. Isn't that a problem?
I don't think so, no.
Gary Lineker has revealed his feelings about the BBC now that he's left the broadcaster. This is Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition.
Evening. Tomorrow will be pretty similar to today. We're going to see heavy downpours, but 5 minutes later, the sun may well be out. A gusty wind blowing the heavy showers across the country. And like today, might even be a few thunderstorms around as well. Here's the reason why. Low pressure sitting just to the northwest. It's been a very wet and windy day in the far northwest. The winds ease a touch through the night, but the rain will persist over the Highlands and the Western Isles. Elsewhere, lots of showers zipping through at the moment, but they will tend to ease from many eastern areas. I think lengthy clear spells here. Showers never too far away from western coasts. Temperature-wise, well, dipping down into single figures for some spots. Fresh but bright start to Friday over the Midlands, much of eastern England and eastern Scotland. Generally a dry, fine start. Plenty of showers, though, in the west, and those showers will simply become more widespread as we go through the day. But as I said, generally a dry, fine start over East Anglia and the Midlands. The showers in West Wales, northwest England, likely to be heavy. Might even get a rumble of thunder again, and the showers moving through Northern Ireland. Again, there are parts of the east starting dry, and that east-west split also in evidence across Scotland with plenty of showers in the west. The wind's not as strong as today, but still a gusty, blusterous day. The showers will, as I say, become more widespread, certainly from late morning onwards. We'll see some over the Midlands and eastern England. Always, though, most frequent in the west, just zipping through on that brisk and gusty wind, making it feel cooler than the numbers would suggest. Temperatures actually close to average for the time of year, but certainly feeling fresher with the wind and when the showers come along. And there'll be more of them on Saturday too. Again, that mixture of bright spells and heavy showers. We may start with some across the southeast on Saturday morning, but again, most of the showers in the west developing more widely through the day. Again, the odd rumble of thunder. Again, temperatures close to average. And then things likely to turn wet and very windy by the time we get to Sunday. Goodbye.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition with me, Nana Acquare. Right, let's get stuck into the front covers. We're looking at the front cover of The Star. Joining me, my panel, Conservative peer Sean Bailey, Labour councillor Sebastian Salek, also GB News contributor and comedian Paul Cox. Right, this one is Gary Lineker. I'm never going back to the BBC. They haven't invited him. He was fired for reposting an anti-Semitic trope, wasn't it? There was a rat on something, and that is an anti-Semitic trope, and he retweeted it to his how many millions of followers without acknowledging or realising. And it's only when he was told that he then said, oh, I didn't see the rat. Paul?
Well, yes, that was. It's a good reminder, actually, because patently pro-Gazan supporters have wittingly or unwittingly found themselves on the side of anti-Semitism, but I don't think they understand why. I don't think they understand how easily it is to attribute that to them. That's a whole other debate. Let's probably not do that now. Gary Lineker, for instance. I don't understand what Gary Lineker adds to the debate either, because he's got a platform, but the pro-Gaza platform is bigger than most platforms. I mean, it's very easy to be pro-Gazan. This is what I would say about someone like Gary Lineker, and compare it to, and I don't want to do this comparison, but it's just come to mind, Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is standing up for things that are incredibly unpopular in today's zeitgeist. Gary Lineker's just going with the perceived wisdom. He's just agreeing with everybody else. Now, I'm not suggesting he doesn't believe it, but it's not exactly a great stance to take, is it? There's no heroism involved.
I would challenge the idea that Charlie Kirk's views aren't popular, because he was in hock with the President of the United States. So clearly that debate has been won over
He just got murdered.
Of course he did. But that's not to say that his views aren't the orthodoxy in the US now, given who is in charge.
On university campuses, they certainly weren't, because that was a pro-Palestine place, really. A lot of universities in America.
Depends which campus you go to. But back to Lineker anyway.
He had apparently got, was it 3,000 or 7,000 hate emails or messages from that particular campus?
I'm sure he did. I mean, Lineker, whatever you think about him, successful guy, right? If you are listening to the rest is politics, the rest is money, the rest is this, the rest is that, that's him. He's got a whole other business. So this is a guy who's done really well for himself. He doesn't need to go back to the...
of initially football, but then on the back of the BBC.
But he doesn't need to go back to the BBC. He's set.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but that's why he said what he said. You know, he's what they call independently rich. He can do as he pleases and has done for many, many years. My big thing is the damage he did to the BBC. I've said it before and I'll say it again. At some point, the public will have to be asked, will they continue to pay the £3 billion annually that we pay to the BBC? And a number of people will refuse to pay that money given a choice, and it will be because of the likes of Gary Lineker. So he's all right. Good for him. Will the BBC be all right?
But the thing about the BBC is, you go into any major corporation in London or across the country, or in fact across the Western world, they'll talk about DEI and they'll talk about multiculturalism. They'll say they want to represent the communities outside of their business. They often don't. They don't represent diversity in terms of opinion, and that's the problem. The BBC do exactly the same thing. So the BBC does not diversify in any way. You cannot go into the BBC and find anyone centre of left. I wouldn't imagine.
Thomas Skinner on Strictly.
Well, OK.
Go on, let's do that.
Had a very difficult time as a result.
Yes.
Who is he? Why should we listen to him? The fact that we could point to Thomas Skinner just makes my point, Sebastian. I know that was kind of a flippant comment from you, and you didn't mean to make an intelligent remark. But the point is, the BBC represents a very small clique of North London intelligentsia. That's who they represent. And the country no longer is interested in that. The BBC, we all loved the BBC at some point.
Oh, I did when I was younger.
I was a BBC kid.
I think you're right, and the point I'm making, right, they're going, the BBC, that, you know, from the cleaner to the young person who's just fresh out of university, got their first sort of reporting job, will pay the price because of Gary Lineker's, you know, arrogance and the fact that he doesn't have to care. The BBC was a national treasure. I don't think it's...
Do you really think that's a watershed moment? Do you think Gary Lineker leaving is going to change public opinion that much?
No. I don't think Gary Lineker simply is not that important. But he has, and him in particular, has had a big effect on how people feel about the BBC. And remember, we pay for the BBC. Again, he's going to be fine. Like you said, very successful man.
Yeah.
I think in years to come, not too many years to come now, the BBC will feel the effect.
Because, and I agree with you, and also that clip that we played of him was him not being bothered about a BBC documentary which was narrated by the son of a Hamas minister, and the BBC, well, unfortunately, were behind that, so that's really, again, the BBC are losing credibility at a rate of knots. But there's this story here on the Daily Telegraph. This is the story, Ed Miliband. The PM overrules Miliband on net zero project. Yes, Sir Keir Starmer has overruled Ed Miliband by snubbing part of his green plan for an energy plant, a hydrogen plant. The Prime Minister has effectively closed the door to the construction of this major hydrogen project in Teesside, backed by Ed Miliband, by deciding to not go ahead with it and go with something else.
Look, I want to support Keir Starmer in this. This is a ridiculous plan. It's a ridiculous waste of our money. It isn't going to give the power that a nuclear power station would provide. But the pain here is twofold. One, there was people in that area who'd be relying on this plant for employment. And Ed Miliband has messed around and messed up their lives. We could have been giving them jobs. But it's right that the PM steps in and stops these things. And what I really hate, why Ed Miliband and North London intelligentsia are rubbish, they have politicised the modernisation, the independence of our power generation system. So now it's going to happen much more slowly and much more expensively because they made it into political football. And it started, actually, with the Lib Dems, what's his name there, Clegg, when he stopped us building nuclear back when in the coalition. And it annoys me that people who keep telling us we have to drive electric or we must do this, they're slowing down the adoption of it by making it political. We should just been having a practical conversation about this, not a political one.
Sebastian?
We've got no choice but to pursue net zero. What is the alternative? Well, what is the alternative?
Well, how much do we really know about net zero? Yeah. Let's be honest here. I mean, if you were serious about zero carbon, A, you wouldn't import wind turbines from other countries, which only last for about 15 years. They've only got about a 15-year lifespan. We're getting all the stuff from China. We've destroyed our own steel industry. We are taking solar panels from China and abroad, so we're transporting all of that as well. So if you were serious about green energy, that's not how you would do it. You wouldn't even build electric cars.
What would you do instead?
Well,
you use our own oil and gas. That's what you do.
Nuclear has to be part of the mix, that's right.
Probably frack as well.
For how long? You're going to run out of gas eventually,
well,
and you're destroying our beautiful British countryside in the process.
What about pylons? Pylons are going to destroy our beautiful countryside. And so
I don't mind a pylon. I love a windmill.
You can have one outside.
I will, I'll take it.
You'll take it?
Ship it over,
Your neighbours might not be so happy.
It's the only way.
Do you like the windmills?
I love the windmills.
You love the windmills?
I do. Do you know what? I spent a lot of my childhood driving through Denmark, where they are brilliant at windmills, and there's nothing a child wants to see more.
Prettier windmills, let's be clear.
Yeah,
well, let's get the pretty ones.
Look, if you're serious about it, here's the thing. We are less than 1% of the world's emissions, right? We could go net zero tomorrow. It doesn't matter, because we're going to be suffering from what's happening in China and everywhere else.
Do you know what? The number of countries that have less than 2%, add them together, and that's 36, 37, 38%.
It's all lies.
So we can't say we're just a tiny country. It's not good enough.
It's rubbish. It's all lies, because we ship all our carbon, we offset it to China, so they make all the stuff. The emissions come from them, but we are one planet, so it makes no sense. Well, coming up in just a moment, Ed Balls has revealed how his wife feels about her new job. This is Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Northern parts of Europe will see any heavy downpours and thunderstorms easing away, though some light showers remaining in places. That's away from Spain and Portugal, though. High pressure dominating, so largely settled here. Plenty of sunshine, though we could see some occasional showers affecting Barcelona. Also some showers across northern parts of Italy, Switzerland and also Austria. But elsewhere across Italy, the Adriatic coastline and across Greece, plenty of sunshine to come. That theme continuing as we head into next week, and temperatures widely in the mid to high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's Newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight, late edition. I'm Nana Aquare. Let's go inside the papers now. This one's inside the Telegraph. Cooper holding a grudge. Yvette Cooper felt frustrated to be moved from her cabinet post as Home Secretary. Ed Balls, her husband, has disclosed. She's spent years getting to the point where she could have turned around the crisis over migration, only to be moved to the job of Foreign Secretary, said the politician turned broadcaster. However, the former Labour cabinet minister noted that his wife could not be anything but excited at becoming Foreign Secretary. Right, let's speak to my panel. Let's see what they think about that. I'll start with you, Sebastian Selleck. Yvette Cooper.
Yeah, I had another broadcaster trying to tell me this was a demotion. I don't know who's being demoted from one great office of state to another. No. I'd be thrilled with Foreign Secretary. It's a great job. I mean, representing Britain around the world, what could be a greater honour than that?
It's one of the four big uns, isn't it?
Yeah, it is one of the four big uns, but if you had to choose, you'd choose Home Secretary, let's be clear.
You take Home, I'll take Foreign, we'll be laughing.
we get on with it. As our international impact has reduced, so has the importance of the Foreign Secretary, whereas the Home Office will always be important. And I could see how it could be viewed as a demotion.
She did also get a get-out-of-jail-free card as well, didn't she?
Yeah.
She's failed up or sideways or something, you know, because she's delivered nothing as Home Secretary.
I think that's unfair.
It is.
I think that's unfair.
Well, let's have a look. Let's start.
Go
with,
on.
Okay,
You
they
start, I'll
ditched
finish you off.
Rwanda, but now they're talking about a third-party place to send people, so that was probably a bad idea. Adverts on social media, that's one of her plans. She put adverts out and also to stop the smugglers, which obviously didn't do that much, really, to be honest. 80 in a dinghy. She said if there's more than 80 people in a dinghy, what they'll do is they'll now imprison smugglers, thereby legitimising 80 people in a dinghy.
Yes, it's just 79.
Not very clever. And then one in, one out. Well, that's not really got off the ground. And to be honest, it doesn't really reduce the numbers, does it? One in, one. That's the same thing.
I think it's been a mixed performance, and I'm going to be very diplomatic about that. Yeah, there are still too many people coming in. That's clear for all to see.
Twice as many.
But the backlog is down. Enforced removals are up. Hotel costs are down. There is progress on key issues.
Is that taking into account the people that are coming here? Because I think you'll find that actually, on balance, there are still more people coming.
Let's be very clear. The Labour government, Yvette Cooper, has utterly failed on this, right? And the Tories would know.
Oh, come on, mate. You guys tied your own hands.
Hold on. The Tories would know because we failed too. So let's be very clear about that. I want to be very clear about that. But what's interesting is you won an election promising to do stuff, and I was one of the few who pointed out at the time the idea that you'll smash a gang simply won't work because you have to have a relationship with the foreign government. We don't have that. And you are emotionally incapable of making the steps that need to be done to succeed. I believe the new Tory lot, led by Kemi, are prepared to make those steps to actually make the change.
I don't think it's about emotion, though. Answer me this. What is the political advantage to the government of not tackling this?
I don't know.
Well, survival. Because if Keir Starmer looks to tackle it, his MPs will tell him he's racist and get rid of him. Same when they did with reforms.
No one's
around
saying
it.
that. Yes, no MPs are saying very different.
Well, Rwanda may well have worked had they tried it, but listen. Take a look at the front covers of tomorrow's pages. The Telegraph, Starmer faces MP's Mandelson scandal. On the Times, Mandelson, I was clear about links to Epstein. On the Sun, face of evil. Metro leads with Mandy, it all ends in Keir's. Independent, Starmer in crisis as he's forced to sack yet another key ally. On the Daily Express, weak Starmer under fire for Mandelson fiasco. Daily Mail, Starmer ignored string of warnings. Front cover of the Eye reads, Mandelson exit leaves weakened Starmer facing wrath of Labour. On the Mirror, home in disgrace. The Guardian, PM faces questions over judgment as he is forced to sack Mandelson. A Daily Star, Lineker, I'm never going back to the BBC. I've got to say thank you so much to my panel, Sebastian Selleck, Lord Sean Bailey, and also Paul Cox. Thank you for you. And also thank you to you at home for your company. It's been a pleasure. We're back tomorrow 11 p.m. with some other people. If you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Good morning.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Evening. Tomorrow will be pretty similar to today. We're going to see heavy downpours, but 5 minutes later, the sun may well be out. A gusty wind blowing the heavy showers across the country.